Blue Ox Productions presents Ural drum wheel respoking. Well, Babe fell victim to the cracked aluminum wheel. I had 7 nipple bosses that were cracked. Word is that it's a direct result of over torquing on some of the spokes at the factory. So I got a new wheel and I'm gonna respoke it today. So I took the old wheel apart, I cleaned all the spokes, I checked all the spokes, I cleaned all the nipples, I checked all the nipples, and so I'm ready to go. So as you can see, I got my wheel laid out here, I got my hub laid out here. I have a set of the nipple holes at 12 o'clock, and if you can see it on the rim, I have the valve stem hole right at 12 o'clock. So when you look at these holes, there's an upper set of holes that are on that side, and there's a lower set of holes. It may sound strange, but the first set of spokes you want to put in are the ones in the upper hole. So as you can see, I've got spokes in all the upper holes, and what they're going to do is they're going to go on the, starting here to the right, you're going to have a third hole. And then after that, every fourth hole will have a spoke. And so what you do is you put a little bit of anti-seize compound on the threads. I'm going to put these inside the nipple boss, and then I will thread one of the nipples on, and I'll do that for that whole upper row on this side. So I have the first set of spokes on, and so a couple of key points. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to lace the lower spokes like that, and you can see how they go in, and I'll lace those all around. But a couple of things I want to point out. First of all, this procedure I'm using, I've used it a number of times, and I got it from Dr. Bill Glazer's website, www.myural.com. It works very well, and if you take your time and you do it the way he laid it out, the truing process, the torquing and truing process will be so much easier. So first of all, when I put all those spokes in, what's key when it comes to torquing the spokes is you want to make sure that your spoke nipples are threaded on each spoke the same amount when you start. That way when you end up, they all should reach torque pretty much the same rotation around, or maybe the second rotation after that. So what you do is when you put the spokes in and you put the nipple on, see if I can get that in the center, you see how there's a little bit of thread there left? So when you put each spoke in as you go around, you want to thread that nipple just to the point where the threads are gone on it. And you do that exactly for every spoke that you put in, and that'll make sure that when you start torquing and you go systematically around the wheel, then it'll be pretty close to true. There might be maybe a little bit of tweaking, but we'll get to that in a bit. But that's what you want to do. So now I'm going to lace those bottom ones, and I'm going to put all the spokes in. Well, I have the second set of spokes on, and just a couple of notes. I think I failed to mention this. When you're putting in the second row, they go underneath the spoke, and you'll see you'll have a whole spacing between the top spokes that you put in. Now, as I started going around the rim, I noticed when I got to the last 3 or 4 spokes on that second row, they started getting real tight. And so what I ended up having to do, I know I mentioned earlier to thread the nipple down to where just the threads stopped showing. So what I did was I backed off each nipple to where there was about 2 threads showing, because I know what's going to happen when I go to do the second set as well, as they will get even tighter as you try to put them in. So I backed each of these nipples off to where they're roughly about the same. Again, what you're trying to do is find conformity, so when you start torquing them, you start turning all at the same point. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the rim over, and I'm going to do the exact same sequence. I'll do the top spokes first, and then I'll do the bottom spokes, and then we'll be ready to start torquing. So I have all my spokes in, and And once I got them all in, and I got them threaded down to where there were 2 threads showing on each spoke, it made it easier going in. Then I went back through, and I was able to snug each of them up until, like I had said in the beginning, that the threads are just covered. And so I did that in a sequence of 3 every 3rd spoke I went through. And I'll talk about that more in the torquing procedure. But what helps is if you have something like this, putting on those spoke nipples. It's just a 6-pointed 10 millimeter socket with a screwdriver handle, or you could have a nut driver. But so now I got all the spokes in there. They're all roughly the same tightness or starting at the same spot. And so on my next video, we'll talk about torquing of the spokes.